We're going to use algebra to solve for x in the following equations. So we want to isolate x to determine its value. In our first equation, x plus 3 equals 7. To get x all by itself, the opposite of adding on 3 is subtracting 3 from each side. So we have x plus 3 subtract 3 equals 7. And then I have to subtract 3 from the right hand side because I subtracted 3 from the left hand side to keep things equal. So now on the left hand side I just have an x remaining because positive 3 and negative 3 make 0. And then on the right hand side 7 subtract 3 equals 4. We can also use a flowchart to help us solve for x. So our original equation was x plus 3 equals 7. We have to perform the inverse operations for this equation to determine the value of x. So 7 subtract 3, because that's the inverse of adding 3, would give us an answer of 4. To verify our solution, we'll replace the x in the equation with 4 and determine if the left and the right side are equal. So on the left hand side we have 4 plus 3, which is 7. Right hand side we have 7. So that's the correct solution for our equation. In this equation we have x subtract 5 equals 12. To isolate the variable x, we have x subtract 5 and then 5 negatives need 5 positives to make 0 to get the x isolated by itself. If I added 5 positives to the left hand side, I also have to add 5 positives to the right hand side. That leaves us with x remaining on the left hand side because 5 positives and 5 negatives make 0. And on the right hand side I have 17. Using the flow chart, my original equation, I have x subtract 5 equals 12. Going the other way, on the right hand side of my flowchart, I'm performing the inverse operation. So 12 plus 5 gives me a value of 17 for x. To verify the solution, we'll replace the value for x with a 17. 17 subtract 5 on the left hand side and 12 on the right hand side. 17 subtract 5 equals 12 on the left hand side and the right side, so we have the correct solution for our equation. In this equation we have 4x equals 24. Remember, when we have a numerical coefficient of 4 with the x, that means the x is multiplied by 4. So to solve for x and isolate it by itself, we want to get the value for 1x. So I'm going to perform the inverse operation of multiplying by 4, which is dividing by 4. If I divide the left side by 4, I need to divide the right side by 4 to preserve equality. So 4x divided by 4 just leaves me with x on the left hand side, and 24 divided by 4 is 6 on the right hand side. Using the flowchart, our original equation was x multiplied by 4 equals 24. Performing the inverse operations going the other way, 24 divided by 4 gives us a value of 6 for x. To verify our solution, we'll replace the x in the equation with a 6 to determine if the left side equals the right side. So 4 times 6 on the left hand side to equal 24 on the right hand side. 4 times 6 is 24 on the left and the right hand side, so that's the correct solution for our equation. In this equation we have 2x subtract 3 equals 7. So to isolate the x, the first thing that I want to do is add 3 to each side to make 0 with that negative 3. So 2x subtract 3 plus 3 on the left hand side. On the right hand side I have 7, and I'm adding on 3 on the right hand side as well to make sure that I do the same thing to the left and the right hand side. On the left side, 3 negatives and 3 positives make 0. So I am left with 2x on the left side. On the right side, 7 plus 3 is 10. To isolate the x and get just one x, I have to divide 2x by 2. And same thing on the right hand side, 10 divided by 2 will leave me with x equals 5 as a solution for this equation. Using the flowchart, my original equation was x times 2 subtract 3 equals 7. Performing the inverse operations, I have 7 plus 3 divided by 2 to give me a solution of x equals 5. To verify my solution, I'll replace the x with a 5. So 2 times 5 subtract 3 on the left-hand side is 7 on the right-hand side. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract 3 on the left and 7 on the right. 10 subtract 3 is 7 on the left and the right hand side, so that's the correct solution to our equation.